Now imagine the Tesla Roadster and any other electrical vehicle with a hydrogen fuel cell accompaniment. We can actually clean and power the world electrically with water. And with onboard hydroxygen, HHO generation feeding the fuel cell, it would not be necessary to stop at pressurized hydrogen fueling stations. So you could just drive right by all of those. In fact, you can have a hydrogen fuel cell at your house powering your home off grid. Large commercial arrays can be developed as well and installed with the Tesla mega packs, the grid-sized battery packs, and Tesla charging stations could be equipped with water fuel cells, creating the electricity that feeds that charges up the vehicles that charge there with water. The technology exists. I've got a playlist here I'm going to show you more of so you can see that. Quiet, clean, pure. It's perfect. Water is the perfect fuel. Just leave some condensation. You can actually have hydroxygen oxygen fed into the cabin environment for clean air if you have a need to close the circuit. This could also be on cargo ships that are carrying shipping containers, and also pleasure boats, cruise ships. With the cargo ships, with the cargo containers, they can have container-sized battery pack and hydrogen generators. So it actually creates its own electricity. They can be placed by commercial sites. Instead of a diesel generator, you can use water to clean and power the world.
Toyota. Always a better way.
Will it be Toyota that does it? Possibly a partnership, Toyota with Tesla. Could be. Now this is a movie that Keanu Reeves, Morgan Freeman were in, and it's called Chain Reaction.
In a split second.
Hey, did you computer model your work?
No, I didn't. I was too busy building it.
Eddie Kasalovich will be left with the one thing no one else possesses.
Cheap, abundant energy, water into hydrogen.
Who'd be interested in this technology?
A secret.
Who wouldn't?
The rest of
So Stanley Meyer was, I believe, killed for not selling out his formula and his system of creating fuel from water. So what I'm going to show you here now is an application of the mega packs
All right, well, thanks for coming out. It's
in Australia.
a drive. When this is done, which will be in just a few months, it'll be the largest battery installation by a factor of 3 in the world.
So Tesla is positioned for this.
This is a great example to the rest of the world of what can be done.
So I've reached out to Elon
This whole event, everything is powered by those packs.
and the design team. So I hope to help make the transition to this effective. Okay, so I'm going to move ahead right here to, I wanted to show you this as well. Okay, so here we've got mega packs as well, and that could all have hydrogen generating as well with that. So the cargo containers could actually be filled with power stations for easy placement. Okay, and with the Tesla Semi, I would like to highlight, I want to get this so I can show you. The Tesla Semi can also have regenerative braking on the trailer placement, on the trailers, so that it would be easy to charge the batteries that are actually placed underneath the trailer for lower weight distribution. So you can have double the regenerative braking with that as well. Now, this semi could be loaded up with a hydrogen fuel cell and mega pack that could be placed anywhere in an emergency or by a wind farm, a solar farm, or a mall. Some of the areas where there's a high concentration of Teslas, I've heard that there can be difficulty getting in to charge your vehicle up because of that. So that's why I was saying these could be a great advertising resource for that. And the opportunity space right underneath the trailer itself would make the trailer much more stable, and also the tractor could be lightened a bit. And you could have you could take this vehicle to road races and feature that. A lot of race enthusiasts are finding the Tesla Model S Plaid, and obviously the Roadster, soon to be out, will be just amazing for that. I did pre-order the Cybertruck, the tri-motor autonomous version. So Tesla is way on the leading edge of all this. That's why I want to work with them. Yeah, baby. That'd be awesome. So here's a demonstration of creating HHO, hydroxygen.
Can you make water explode? Well, maybe not water per se, but with a simple technique, we can turn one of the most abundant materials on Earth into a highly explosive gas. In this project, we're building a generator that uses electricity to convert this into this.
Oh yeah. So I put one of these that I made on my Buick Park Avenue supercharged and got over 37 miles to the gallon with it.
For this project, we're going to need some stainless steel. I'm at a local fabrication company, and not only do they have plenty of scrap metal to choose from, they're even willing to help me cut it to custom sizes. A job that would have taken me hours with a pair of tin snips and a hacksaw only takes a matter of minutes with their equipment. This is 20-gauge stainless steel, and this hydraulic punch is being used to cut precise holes in the tops and bottoms of the plates. When finished, I have 12 plates measuring 3 inches by...
So there's nothing quite like having the right tool for the job, and that's what exists there. This is an let me just let them speak for themselves.
Environmental Defense Fund created the Energy Innovation Series to feature groundbreaking technologies and innovative business models that are paving the way towards a clean, low-carbon energy future. One promising innovation is Bloom Energy's Bloom Box. This fuel cell technology company has its roots in NASA's Mars program and sold its first Bloom Box to Google. The Bloom Box is a solid oxide fuel cell. It converts fuel into electricity through a chemical process that is much more efficient than conventional combustion, resulting in much lower emissions. It produces massive amounts of on-site power at low cost. In fact, one Bloom box can power 160 average American homes. Bloom Energy's fuel flexibility with both fossil fuels and renewables ensures reliable power generation with a significantly lower carbon impact. Let's take a look at this breakthrough technology, which helps deliver efficient and affordable power while protecting our health and environment.
A fuel cell is like a battery that always runs. It consists of three parts: an electrolyte, an anode, and a cathode. For a solid oxide fuel cell, the electrolyte is a solid ceramic material. The anode and cathode are made from special inks that coat the electrolyte. Unlike other types of fuel cells, no precious metals, corrosive acids, or molten materials are required. Next, an electrochemical reaction converts fuel and air into electricity without combustion. A solid oxide fuel cell is a high-temperature fuel cell. At high temperature, warmed air enters the cathode side of the fuel cell and steam mixes with fuel to produce reformed fuel, which enters on the anode side. Next, the chemical reaction begins in the fuel cell. As the reformed fuel crosses the anode, it attracts oxygen ions from the cathode. The oxygen ions combine with the reformed fuel to produce electricity, water, and small amounts of carbon dioxide. The water gets recycled to produce the steam needed to reform the fuel. The process also generates the heat required by the fuel cell. As long as there is fuel, air, and heat, the process continues producing clean, reliable, affordable energy.
So there you go. And this organization is like-minded in wanting to clean up the environment. My playlist over here on the side features different technologies like this. So this right here, Water as Fuel, was a video that featured Stanley Meyer.
In the top, our news here at 6 o'clock, an age-old dream becoming a reality. A local inventor has discovered a way, hear this, to use water to run your car.
It's a major breakthrough that will no doubt make motorists happy. And as Ralph Robinson explains, the Pentagon is also showing lots of interest in this project.
Water has always been considered a precious commodity, but Stan Meyer's invention may make it even more valuable. He has developed what's called a water fuel cell. It has taken the place of his old gas tank. The water fuel cell breaks down water molecules into oxygen and hydrogen. The hydrogen is used to run his dune buggy.
I don't care if you use rainwater, well water, city water, ocean water. If you don't have any fresh water, go ahead and use snow. If you don't have any snow available to you, then use salt water because there's no adverse effect to the fuel cell.
Meyer started working on this project 4 years ago. He's not a scientist. He isn't even a chemist. In fact, he never graduated from college. Myers was determined, he says, to design something to protect this country from oil embargoes.
We've calculated that if we take the dune buggy from Los Angeles to New York, we would roughly use 22 gallons of water.
The Pentagon flew a lieutenant colonel in last week to look at Meyer's invention. There is talk of possibly using it in the Star Wars defense program and to run army tanks. Myers is currently perfecting a water fuel cell for cars. It will cost about $1,500. He says it won't need any maintenance, and you won't have to replace it. It'll be at least 2 years before the fuel system goes into mass production. The day it happens will be one the fuel industry hates, but it'll put a smile on the face of those who've had to say at one time or another, fill her up. I'm Ralph Robinson.
As you can see, many patents have already been received, and many more are forthcoming. To date, over 42 patents have been applied for.
Hi, I'm Dr.
So unfortunately, he did not live to bring that into fruition because he was killed for not selling his technology.
That we're at a turning point in history, a complete revolution in human affairs, with the discovery of totally new energy sources. Many people are skeptical of this, but I think we may be going through the 4 stages involved in any revolutionary development. 1 is nonsense, don't waste my time. 2, oh, it's interesting but not important. 3, I always said it was a good idea. And 4, I thought of it first.
That's Arthur C. Clarke.
Can you imagine what it would be like if you could split water and run it into your engines? You could put water in your fuel tank to fly airplanes, power stations.
Ordinarily, we look at water to drink and wash our clothes. Today, you have to look at water as a fantastic new fuel source.
A world powered by water might seem like a dream, a pure fantasy. But 100 years ago, that is exactly what the men of steam would have thought about a world powered by oil.
Well, it was during the oil embargo of the United States. It alarmed me that a little country over in the Far East could actually cripple the United States. And realizing that the entire industrial base of the United States and the world is based on the supply and the utilization of energy, it became imperative that we must try to bring in an alternate fuel source and do it very quickly. Of course, I thought originally with the right type of funding, we could possibly get it in within 6 months. But reality shows that the 12 to 15 years was more correct in this projection.
Back in the 70s, Stan Meyer set out single-handedly to solve America's energy problems. He decided to do it using water, the world's most abundant storehouse of hydrogen, which is a far more powerful fuel than oil. For 15 years, Meyer has been fighting to get his inventions taken seriously.
Most inventors have to be a loner. You have to be somewhat thick-skinned and don't rely on other people to support you, because they will not. More times than not, an invention is really stolen from the inventors. Even in my prior development of high technology, I've had patents taken from me. I've learned from the School of Hard Knocks to be very cautious.
Meyer has always stood out against the crowd. He has no formal qualifications as a scientist because he didn't wait to graduate from high school, leaving early to go straight into research at the high-powered Battelle Institute in his native Ohio. Now he works full-time as a private inventor. He's built a device with potentially revolutionary implications. There is nothing startling about a machine that can extract the hydrogen from water. What is highly unusual is that it should do so with ordinary tap water. The conventional method is called electrolysis. Meyer has turned that process on its head. Unlike electrolysis, his device doesn't use up large amounts of electric current, nor does it produce an enormous amount of waste heat. For 20 years, he has been refining a method to fracture water, which produces vast amounts of hydrogen on demand. This is not his latest apparatus. He was unwilling to let us point a camera at that. This is the simple device he used to convince a reluctant patent office that his revolutionary concept actually works. Alloy rods, acting as electrodes, are housed in a perspex container that's filled with water. Normal mains voltage is fed in through a transformer, but critically, there is virtually no current consumed, less than half an amp. The result is dramatic. Hydrogen pours off with the flick of a switch. Meyer claims the key is his electronics, which pulses electricity rapidly across the rods at up to 20,000 cycles per second. In a way that's not readily apparent, this process transforms the equation. Whereas in conventional electrolysis, 3 times as much energy is consumed as is produced in the form of hydrogen fuel, in Meyer's apparatus, the reverse is true. It appears to produce several 100% more energy than it consumes.
Stan has something that's characteristic of the people that sound like they've done something to tap zero-point energy. Has high frequency, high voltage, and there's a combination of the two at which something occurs. With Chernetsky in Russia, It was what he called a self-sustaining discharge. The tube would run by itself. When Stan gets this effect, the amount of hydrogen and oxygen that are emitted off these two electrodes is a step function. It almost boils the water. If I did this with standard electrochemicals, I need current, and the water should rise a degree every couple of seconds. With Stan's, it'll run for a half hour, and the water temperature hasn't changed. Something's different.
Meyer demonstrates this repeatedly without any difficulty, and yet on the face of it, it represents an extraordinary revolution. His measurements over the years suggest 1,700% greater efficiency than conventional electrolysis. And if he's to be believed, he's getting much better results from his latest, still secret invention.
Well, I first got involved with Stan Meyer when I went over there with a couple of colleagues to look at his water-splitting device. And so we arrived at Stanley Mayer. He had a demonstration cell. We filled it with tap water. In fact, I did that myself. And he switched it on, and almost instantly, there were 3 jaws dropped because of the rate at which the gas poured off. It was quite spectacular.
Whatever energy source Stan Meyer had tapped, it was not explicable by the electric power that was going into it. So something was powering it outside of conventional wisdom.
There is no question that the gas coming off in such abundance is hydrogen. Meyer ignites it to produce a high-temperature flame able to cut through metal.
Stanley Mayer has faced a lot of difficulties. He's 3 times tried to launch the device and produce press conferences at the technical press round, but he's been almost universally slated. In the early days, very much so, they just ridiculed the whole idea. He's getting a little more notice now because some scientists are getting interested. But by and large, science is very intolerant, particularly modern science.
As with Tesla, Griggs and others, Meyer's claims are so far outside the received scientific wisdom that they've been ignored by the majority of the scientific establishment. But then, Meyer has ignored them too. He has poured his energies over the last 10 years into establishing recognition for his claims by getting international patents.
In the processing, there was a great deal of difficulty in trying to process the legal paperwork in such a way as to allow the patent office to fully understand what was actually occurring. In one instant, we brought the water fuel cell to Washington, D.C., and of course I had tweaked it in such a way to produce an enormous amount of hydrogen oxygen gas, and the patent examiner said, no, it will not work based on the electrolysis process. And when we turned it on and produced an enormous amount of hydrogen gas, the examiner finally realized that we were doing exactly that, and went out in the hallway and started screaming and hollering to everybody on the floor, put out all your cigarettes, hydrogen's in the building. So we started laughing and said, well, we certainly convinced everybody in the patent office that we can do what we said we can do.
Even so, the US Patent Office dragged their feet for 3 years before granting patents on the hydrogen-producing device. Since then, against massive resistance, he's managed to get patents established throughout Europe and Japan. But the hydrogen machine was only the first step towards Meyer's ultimate dream. If he gets it right, this application of his technology would change the 21st century in the same way that the Wright brothers and Carl Benz transformed the 20th. He is currently modifying a beach buggy to run on nothing but water. It doesn't have a petrol tank or even a hydrogen container. It has just a tank of water. He's invented a device called a water splitter to replace the spark plug. As the water is injected into the engine, Meyer claims it's fractured into hydrogen and oxygen and then burned as fuel. Meyer is working on a kit to modify any engine. He hopes to demonstrate it on this car within 12 months.
And of course, the blessing to the use of the water as a fuel source, that on combustion, the byproduct is water mist. So we're even solving the environmental pollution problem at the same time that we're using water to maintain the industrial basis of the world.
Meyer is protective about his inventions to the point of self-confessed paranoia. Most observers describe him as a crank and his car as an aberration. But then madness and genius often go hand in hand. Meyer shares with many inventors a problem that goes well beyond paranoia. As an engineer with no scientific background, he faces a giant hurdle when he tries to communicate with scientists.
one problem is that the language that people use when they're trying to describe their inventions is not the language that I as a scientist am used to, and so I have to translate it, if you like, into a way that I can begin to understand what they're trying to say. It might as well be written in Swahili for all of the sense that it initially makes. And so I'm not particularly inspired to put a lot more effort in the hope that the pearl of wisdom will reveal itself to me. At a certain point, you hit a law of diminishing returns.
It isn't just a question of the difficulties of communication. There is a profound barrier between scientists and inventors, and a strong reluctance on the part of most scientists to risk their reputations grappling with issues that don't have a clear scientific pedigree.
Reluctance to look foolish inhibits a lot of people from looking at things. This is looked at as a pariah. You touch it, and it creates an image of you that you don't want your colleagues to see.
At one extreme, you might have things that are guaranteed to work, but are not very interesting if they do. And at the other extreme, things that are a real long shot, but will be revolutionary. And so you have to try and weigh the balance and decide which side is more likely to be profitable for you. Then, having made some choices, you then have to ask yourself, how do I actually go about doing this? Do I have to apply for funds to do it? And if I do, who will I be competing with? And what is the better chance that this will be supported or that? Because, at least in the big science area that I work, you can't just sort of come up with an idea on a Friday and expect to start the experiment on a Saturday. It takes many months, many years even, of preparation.
But though the scientific establishment may have ignored the likes of Meyer, the powerful military-industrial complex certainly hasn't. Over the past 10 years, Meyer says he's been quietly approached by many influential organizations who would never admit publicly to their involvement with him.
It is involved in deep space exploration, and it's also being developed quite highly in the military. Basically, what occurred with water fuel cell was in the fact that once they understood was actually occurring, then under the U.S. national security mandate, I have no decision or power of whether or not the military or NASA or the federal government will utilize the technology. They can utilize it in any way they so desire.
NASA is using every method it can to regain some of its now fading glory. In the face of strong congressional resistance, the days of limitless budgets for space exploration have long since gone. As the champion of a new, environmentally friendly energy source, NASA would gain immense support.
Your identification, please. You have your identification?
As a former top scientist of the NASA spaceplane project, Professor Paul Ziss has an inside track on the workings of the agency.
NASA has large centers. The center that's in charge of propulsion is NASA Lewis in Cleveland, Ohio. Can you imagine, instead of having a million-pound rocket has 900,000 pounds of fuel on board, an oxidizer. Can you imagine what it would be like if you could put a device on there that would split water and run it into your engines? No explosive compounds.
Public confirmation of a contract from NASA would provide a resounding boost for Mars technology. But Paul Ziss says it's only in a closed meeting they confirm such an agreement.
They're looking for new energy sources. I understand from the people that I've talked with that they have worked with Stan and trying to understand what he's done and given him a contract. I also understand with the bureaucracy in Washington and the congressional oversight as to why they would never admit it. Anyone that does that will be suspect, will be challenged, will be considered a threat.
But if only a fraction of what Meyer claims for his technology can be achieved, it would represent a vindication for NASA's involvement. It would also be a powerful threat to many entrenched vested interests.
If Stan Meyer's device works like he advertises, you would make energy available universally, almost free. That is a major, major, major impact.
When new technology comes in existence, there's a great resistance to it because it can affect a lot of economic factors. In this particular case in the United States, We pay out roughly about $200 billion a year for foreign oil. It's quite obvious that the Arabs would pay $200 billion to try to keep this type of technology out of the economy. And many times over the last decade, I have been offered enormous amounts of money to simply sell out or to sit on it. The Arabs offered me well over $1 billion cold cash simply to sit on and do absolutely nothing with it. My life has been threatened many times. Of course, I happen to believe in the power of angels. And if I don't believe in the power of angels, I don't believe I'll be around here too long.
If the thing like Stan Mayer has works, every piston engine, every gas turbine in the world today, if it had its converter, could run on it. With a little invention, we could get standalone devices to run all over the world. I think it would be what I would be concerned about is the people that sell energy would be essentially bankrupted. It's what happened to the Conestoga wagons when trains came, or to the Pony Express when the telegraph came in. They're going to wipe out an entrenched power base, and they may not go easily.
All right, so imagine if you had a hydrogen fuel cell powering up the Tesla charging station. I just met Woody. So that was a supercharger local here in Myrtle Beach. So you could have a shipping container sized hydrogen fuel cell for that. So I'm going to fast forward here to another Tesla video.
Within the next 12 months, you're going to be seeing many of these, not only in Norway, but also in the rest of Europe, enabling customers to drive all over Europe free of charge.
I'm so proud. It's a fantastic car. I didn't know you could fall in love with a car, but you can.
So one of the situations we're dealing with is suppressed technology. Now, when it comes to electrical propulsion, it's very, very efficient.
All right, this is Robert Forsch with the YouTube channel Truth. I've got a package going to Tesla, Elon Musk. Imagine, if you will, a Tesla Roadster as the pace car for the Indy 500. And also potentially setting the lap record. Any of the races racetracks that the Tesla can get on, quite possibly with autonomous driving to set records. I'm at the FedEx right now sending this on out, and I'll keep you posted on what transpires. Inside I've got the Tesla shirt with the Cybertruck on the back and the or I should say on the front, and then the Roadster on the back. Thank you so much for your public and private encouragement. This is Robert Forsch with the YouTube channel Truth. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out anytime. Thank you so much.
So what I did with that is I wanted to reach out to Elon, and that was a couple years ago. I have been contacted by representatives that work with Tesla as well. So I understand with the way that this is, it's very
Most often
controversial.
are found by mavericks.
If Stan Meyer's device works like he advertises, you would make energy available universally almost free. That is a major, major, major impact. What I would be concerned about is the people that sell energy would be essentially bankrupted.
So I tweeted my
it's what happened to the Conestoga.
I'm trying to mute that. I tweeted my research library playlist to energy companies, automotive manufacturers, the Defense Department, many names you would recognize, I'm sure.
And we then reach more and more.
Hydrogen is the most abundant element on Earth. It really is nature's fuel.
We're at a very interesting stage of development of this technology where it's not quite ready for prime time, but it's getting tantalizingly close.
Fuel cell technology is evolving. The technology is improving constantly.
We're competing in a market that we have to compete with batteries and generators. And how do we do this?
I think hydrogen has great potential to become one of our primary fuels for the transportation industry in the future.
So this video was a decade ago, just so you know.
I'd rather drive my fuel cell vehicle than my gasoline vehicle.
Funding provided by the U.S. Department of Energy's National Energy Technology Laboratory, the Energy and Environmental Research Center's National Center for Hydrogen Technology, and the members of Prairie Public.
Okay, so when I came across the water car about 20 years ago, it caused me to ask a lot of questions like, why aren't we doing this? And why did they kill a man, poisoned him? He was poisoned after a business meeting with some Belgian investors. When they found out that he died, they didn't even send condolences. They didn't even reach out to the family. And he got up from the table that he was dining with those investors, and he ran outside and grabbed his throat and said, "They poisoned me." Those were his dying words. And then the official story is that he died of a brain aneurysm. But that's, I believe, a lie. And it may have been brought on by poison. I don't know. There's a lot of ways that people can die. He, I believe, was murdered. So I'm at a point where I'm not afraid to live, die, or tell the truth. And I'll tell you one of the things that I brought to the discussion, as far as I can tell, is the fact that because I'm not afraid to live, die, or tell the truth, I'll make this technology available, or at least the awareness that it can be put together. An electric vehicle is way more efficient than an internal combustion engine. The propulsion systems on vehicles, ships, I didn't even mention trains yet. There could be container generators on electric trains. I don't know if you're aware of this, but most trains are diesel electric. They've got massive generators that are driven by diesel, and it powers the electric propulsion system. So it could go completely green, completely quiet, clean and quiet. Same with all the vehicles, semis, all of that. So there you go. I said on my first video that I sent out to about 2,000 manufacturers, world representatives of, like Vladimir Putin. the Biden administration. Evidently, Biden didn't think he needed to acknowledge Tesla in the electrification of transportation. Well, that was obviously more than an oversight. He was flipping him off. Well, what I want to do is basically embrace people that have a common goal and want to make this world a better place. We can power the world with water, with electricity that's created by the technology, the water fuel cell technology. And there are applications. I've got other videos, also known as the Joe cell. It was developed in the 90s in Australia, and they also ran vehicles on a hydroxygen that was put directly into the engine. So in existing internal combustion engines, many of them could have a retrofit. If somebody wants to do that for a vehicle that would have plenty of miles left in it. But we will be phasing out the internal combustion engine. That's the direction it's going. So was I brought on board for such a time as this? I'm putting myself at risk doing this. If you explore my research library, it encompasses much, much more than just petroleum. Let's go to let's see what this has to say. It's a classic. So I deal with commentary on artificial superintelligence. It's already too late. It has AI has control of the creation and distribution of electricity, goods, purchasing power, medical decisions, travel, and all that. We're coming to an end of the road for a lot of people. How about that?
Have you ever had a dream, Neo, that you were so sure was real? What if you were unable to wake from that dream? How would you know the difference between the dream and the real one?
It's the question that drives us, Neo.
What is the Matrix? It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. You are a slave born into a prison for your mind.
The Matrix is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy.
Try to realize the truth.
What truth?
There is no spoon.
Human beings are a disease, a cancer of this planet. You're a plague, and we are the cure.
So you're here to save the world.
I'm trying to free your mind, Neo, but I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it. It seems that you've been living two lives.
I've seen an agent punch through a concrete wall. Men have emptied entire clips of them and hit nothing but air. Everyone who has fought an agent has died. But where they have failed, you will succeed.
So do they guns?
Lots of guns.
No one has ever done anything like this.
That's why it's going to work.
Mr. Anders, what are you trying to tell me? That I can dodge bullets? No, Neo. I'm trying to tell you that when you're ready, you won't have to.
How about that? So that's a little something to consider as well. What are we living in? I feel like I woke up in a Twilight Zone episode. I'm going to go through here and see if I want to pull up another. Oh, yeah. Yep. So I've got a lot of tremendous content on my channel. This is the developer of the Bloom box.
The core of our technology, everyone keeps asking, what's that magic sauce? What's that magic technology? Where does it go? Well, I think I'm going to disappoint you all. I'm simply going to tell you the core of our technology simply is sand. Available in plenty, in multiple continents, in ocean beaches. This sand, from this sand you get zirconium oxide, something that we use. Again, affordable, available in plenty. And it has a particular property, a scientific property, that allows us to make a fuel cell. Again, folks, 1980s patent. We didn't have to invent this. Credit to Walter Nunst. What we did with that, though, is we perfected the technology to create what I want to introduce to you, the Bloom Energy Fuel Cell.
So there you go. And so it's a little redundant because I have it in another video, but I wanted to cover that, wanted to show you that. Okay. Okay. Look at the space under the trailer, like I mentioned earlier in the video. Plenty of room for a massive battery. There you go. Okay, Elon, give me a call anytime. So what I've done with this information is I've made it available for free. Maybe he's already aware of all this. How could I know? By irony and paradox, we don't know what we don't know. What I found out is disturbing, that we have technology that can revolutionize transportation, energy development, propulsion systems, climate control. I've got videos that show how we can have steel reinforced, fortified, insulated concrete construction that's very cost effective and virtually disaster proof. And it takes half the energy to climate control it. So you could live off grid. You could drop a couple of containers, have Kimball Musk's grow room to grow your food in a container, have an HVAC and power generating container, and live on an island somewhere if you want. Put a few of them together and insulate them and concrete them if you want. Plenty of water. But in the world that many of us live, where we've spent a huge amount of money for energy to climate control our homes and propel our vehicles around, we've got a lot of costs that we've provided, that we've needed to earn to do that. Well, what I'm talking about is changing that, making it virtually free, available. Now, there are other topics that I cover as well that include the military-industrial complex, the weaponizing of humanity, and more. Okay, so I'm going to just back this up. This is a critique of the Matrix.
I didn't say it would be easy, Neo. I just said it would be the truth.
The genius of The Matrix is it proved that movies can make us care about dry, philosophical ideas. In the Wachowskis' 1999 film about a programmer who realizes he's living in a computer simulation, the deepest intrigue doesn't lie in what happens, but in why it happens and what it means.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
At the heart of this story are questions like, what's real? Do we actually want the truth? And can human beings be free? Such abstract inquiries become tangible, personal, urgent. as Neo progresses from nihilism to enlightenment and becomes the One, the only person with the potential to free human beings from their machine overlords. This tightly structured hero's journey is the philosopher's journey,
There is no spoon.
packaged as a gripping, action-packed Hollywood flick. 20 years later, here's our take on the deep meaning of The Matrix and why it's a guide to freeing your mind, which can help us uncode the modern Matrix of our times.
Free your mind.
So there you go. This is Robert Forsch with the YouTube channel
This video
Truth.
is brought to you by Mubi, a curated streaming service showing
Let me
exceptional films from around
move
the
this a
globe.
little
It's
bit
like
further
your
ahead.
own personal film festival streaming any believably giant are just meeting each other inside the Matrix. But the red pill allows Morpheus's team to locate where Neo's actual body is in the field where machines grow living human beings to use them for energy. As Neo's false conceptions of reality are torn down,
This can be what? Be real?
the disruption to his mind is so violent that he almost dies.
He's going into arrest.
This is the first death and rebirth Neo goes through in the film.
Am I dead? Far from it.
Like a baby, he must learn to use his own body
Your muscles have atrophied. We'll be building them.
and to begin thinking for himself, as symbolized by seeing through his own eyes.
Why are my eyes so? You've never used them before.
Neo's training is a process of unlearning. Morpheus tells Neo,
Don't think you are. Know you are.
because the thinking that's holding him back is in obedience to the rules of the machines and their agents.
Like gravity. What you must learn is that these rules are no different than the rules of a computer system.
This is something we can all learn from, even if we're not yet ready to reject the laws of physics. Are we not also unnecessarily restricted by what we think we must do or can't do? What we deem possible? At the beginning of the movie, the power of the agents seems unbelievably giant. They are manifestations of the system itself.
Yet their strength and their speed are still based in a world that is built on rules. Because of that, they will never be as strong or as fast as you can be.
And the implication is that we too have unlocked power waiting for us if we unlearn our limitations. Once we start to unbelieve.
Do you believe that my being stronger or faster has anything to do with my muscles in this place?
After this period of destruction comes the third step, reconstructing a new reality from scratch. This is visualized in Neo's training sessions with Morpheus against a blank white background, where they have the ability to summon anything they can think of.
This is the construct. It's our loading program. We can load anything from clothing to equipment.
For the first time, he is discovering agency. This phase has a lot in common with the philosophical stance of existentialism, which grapples with the idea that human beings really are free. At first, humans tend to despair when they realize their freedom, as they find themselves in a world without given meaning. But existentialists don't see this as depressing. They view freedom as an empowering value because we get to create our own meaning. One of the fathers of existentialism, Friedrich Nietzsche, conceived of a grand hero he called the Übermensch, or Overman, who would create new life-affirming values to give higher meaning to our human existence. Sound familiar?
There was a man born inside who had the ability to change whatever he wanted, to remake the Matrix as he saw fit.
The Matrix is essentially about Neo becoming the Übermensch, or the One.
You are the one, Neo.
This question of whether he's the One brings him to the fourth phase of his truth journey, self-knowledge.
It's Latin. Means know thyself.
Morpheus brings Neo to visit the Oracle, whose name alludes to the Greek Oracle of Delphi. The Oracle seems to tell Neo that he's not the One.
But you already know what I'm going to tell you.
I'm not the one.
Sorry, kid.
In fact, though, what she really tells him is that the answers are within him.
Being the one is just like being in love. No one can tell you you're in love, you just know it.
We can't arrive at self-knowledge through others. Neo can't know he's the one because anyone else says so, and that's why the Oracle strategically shuts down the grand narrative others have been building around Neo's specialness.
If you are, it's a very exciting time. No one's ever made the first jump. I know. But what if he does?
Instead, she prepares Neo for a choice he'll soon face.
In the one hand, you'll have Morpheus's life. And in the other hand, you'll have your own.
Her words might strike us as off-topic. Why is she focusing on this instead of talking more about what we all came for, a declaration of Neo's important identity? But the information the Oracle gives him isn't an answer at all. It's a test through which he can define himself.
She told you exactly what you needed to hear. That's all.
While it's tempting to know how things are going to turn out, we're not supposed to rationally comprehend the facts of our future before it comes to pass. Prophecy is only valuable insofar as it provides useful information we can draw on as we form self-knowledge from within, through walking the walk.
Neo, sooner or later you're going to realize, just as I did, there's a difference between knowing the path and walking.
In fact, we get a subtle hint that the Oracle does believe Neo will develop into the One. She alludes to Trinity's feelings for him.
I can see why she likes you. Who?
And we later learn that she predicted the man Trinity loved would be the One.
The Oracle told me that I would fall in love and that the man that I loved would be the one.
It's pretty clear from early on that Neo is going to end up being the One. The real question is why he is. Is this the story of Neo discovering he's the one, or deciding that he is? Are we free to decide our own fates?
Do you believe in fate, Neo?
No,
Why not?
because I don't like the idea that I'm not in control of my life.
When the Oracle anticipates Neo knocking over the vase,
and don't worry about the vase.
What vase?
she raises this unknowable issue of whether the future is decided or chosen.
What's really going to bake your noodle later on is, would you still have broken it if I hadn't said anything?
The Oracle's role in this story isn't to resolve this duality, but to reframe it. She disproves our assumption that fate and freedom are an either-or.
And she's never wrong. Try not to think of it in terms of right and wrong. She is a guide, Neo.
She predicts patterns while leaving room for the randomness that stems from choice. Her vision of destiny, an ever-shifting inkblot test.
Do you think you are the one?
When she meets Neo, her inkblot test of him reflects that he doesn't believe in himself. So he's not there yet. The necessary elements are present, but Neo will also have to decide his destiny.
You got the gift. But it looks like you're waiting for something.
The fifth step of the philosopher's journey is overcoming doubt.
You have to let it all go, Neo. Fear, doubt, and disbelief.
Neo's doubt is symbolized by his fear of falling. This is seen already when he's still in the Matrix.
There are two ways out of this building. One is that scaffold, the other is in their custody.
And pre-liberated Neo caves to his fear. During his training, Neo faces another great height. This time he makes the choice to jump, but he doesn't make it. So the fall demonstrates that he doesn't truly believe in his own capabilities just yet.
Everybody falls the first time.
The problem of doubt is embodied in the character of Cypher, who whispers in the Resistance's ear, tempting them to submit to the inevitable victory of machines.
I'm tired of this war. I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of this ship being cold, eating the same goddamn goop every day.
Cypher rejects the truth,
I know this state doesn't exist.
choosing instead to descend back into hedonism and ignorance.
Ignorance is bliss.
Through Cypher, the Matrix challenges its own thesis that mankind truly wants liberation and enlightenment.
I choose the Matrix.
The character forces us to consider, which would we really choose? A difficult but free life, or blissful subjugation?
I know what you're thinking. Why, oh why didn't I take the blue pill?
Many of us secretly prefer the lie, and will even fight to preserve it, if that illusion maintains our materialist comforts and protects us from suffering.
Most of these people are not ready to be unplugged.
And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it.
The Matrix suggests that most of us already are choosing the blue pill. As we learn in The Matrix Reloaded, only 1% of people have minds that reject the Matrix.
99% of all test subjects accepted the program as long as they were given a choice, even if they were only aware of the choice at a near unconscious level.
Cypher wants badly for Neo to fail.
You never did answer me before. You bought into Morpheus' bullshit.
We get the sense he may know to some degree about the Oracle's prophecy that Trinity would love the One, because he keeps asking her if she thinks Neo's the real deal.
You don't, do you? All I want is a little yes or no.
Even though he believes in nothing, he craves certainty in this belief.
Morpheus was right. And there's no way I can pull this plug. I mean, if Neo's the one, then there'd have to be some kind of a miracle to stop me.
In pursuit of this certainty, he